All right, we have here a Novatec rear hub that we are going to disassemble and replace the bearings on. In order to get started on this, we've got to remove the axle. And you do that by taking 17mm wrench. Yep.
You actually have to use them.
So what you want to do is, after you loosen these up with a 17mm wrench, is take this black cap off, which will expose the axle itself. It should just remove. If it's stuck tight or whatever, it's okay to go ahead and hit that with a rubber mallet and pop it out from this side, and then you'll see that's where the free hub body goes, and that's where the bearings are that we need to get out and try to replace those. Okay, you can see that these are what we would call a blind or a hidden bearing. And almost impossible to knock out from the reverse side of it. So we're going to have to get a bearing puller or use our modified do-it-yourself bearing puller to pull this out. Okay, this is our kind of homemade bearing puller. It's just a concrete anchor that you can screw tight. And so we put this down in here like this, and then just kind of screw it down until it grabs. And then once we get it to grab, we will tighten it with a wrench to make sure that it sticks when we start hammering on it. We'll use this old bottom bracket shell, but you can use a piece of PVC pipe. So it supports the hub without putting too much pressure on the spokes. And then you can get a little more leverage when you try to pop that bearing out from the top side. All right, we finally got it out. I have to tell you that that took some serious pounding. We couldn't actually punch it out, so we went back to the bearing puller method and were able to finally grab it. That's probably the most difficulty I've had getting a bearing out of a hub. So if you're working on yours, just keep after it. It'll eventually come out. Once you get it out, you're going to want to get a rag and get in there and clean the dirty grease off and stuff like that, and prepare the surface for installing the new bearings. All right, now that we've got the hub cleaned up and those other bearings removed, we're going to install a new bearing. And I've gone ahead and pushed this in with my thumbs to get it started. And then if you have a bearing press, that's obviously the best way to go. And if you're uncomfortable with pounding around on your hubs, and take it to your local bike shop. What we're going to do is use a socket like this, and that socket is wider than the bearing itself, so that when I pound on it, it's making contact with both the outer and inner ring of the bearing. And so when I get it in there like this, then I'm going to use a rubber mallet to knock it in place. So once you get it started, then it kind of starts to go in. You can just give nice quick hits on it, and it will sit down into the place that it's supposed to go. Okay, so we got the drive side in without too much hassle. Now it's time to put the non-drive side in. Something to note here, on the drive side, I used a massive socket. I think it's a 32 mil, but here I've noticed that I may not be able to do that because this socket doesn't sit down in here, and that could cause a problem. So I don't want to drive, this overhand. So you might have to use something a little bit smaller that will sit down in there a little bit better. So let's jump into this and hit this bearing in. All right, so don't forget your sleeve. Drop it down in there. And as we get going, we can align it as we get further into the project. And then like before, we're going to put our bearing in here like this, and then just kind of use your thumbs or your fingers to tighten it down. like that, and then we'll get banging on it with the hammer. I'm going to adjust that sleeve down in there. It's still in a good place. One more time, I'm going to sit that sleeve up in the right place because I'm getting close to getting this driven all the way in. There you go. That's how you put those bearings in. All right, now we're gonna put the axle back together and finish up this project. Very simply, just insert it in there like that, and double check to make sure that everything's working well. Go ahead and push the axle through till it pops out the other side. And then once we get here, we'll put the end cap on. It's kind of a preloaded system, so all we got to do is screw that down tight, and you're good to go. And that's as simple as that. That's pretty much all it's going to take. If you want, you can snug it up with wrenches at the end and make sure that it's all nice and tight and ready to go. You don't want to over tighten it, otherwise the axle won't spin freely and it'll put too much pressure on the bearings on the inside. There you go, that's the project and how you can service the bearings on your Novatec rear hub.